welcome back to Canon Friday TV, the Friday Easy Talk. Wasn't it just last week we did the Easy Talk? It was last week Friday, wasn't it? And I tell you what, we've got the A-man, we've got the H-man. Sound like the alphabet.
The henchmen. The henchmen.
The alphabet people. But we're going to get into this particular segment of the Easy Talk on the other side of this music intro. Oh, it's going to be an interesting one. So yeah, we're back again on a Friday evening, and Friday afternoon for you, Aldric, I believe.
1 p.m. my
1
time.
p.m. Yeah. There you go. And for the H-men, Tim, how are you?
Well, it's Alex first. It's great to be back, and I'm delighted to be called up. But also, of course, we have been kind of Joe. We've had a good few matches now. Like we've had our 10, 11. We're well into the league. The momentum has started. And look, I think obviously last night was very disappointing, and we'll get into that. But I think I'm really happy in certain aspects of our play as of from the start of the season to now. Now, maybe the more immediate sample, there's obviously concerns there, and there's a trend that you wouldn't be so fond of. But I think there has been a lot of good constructive work, and I think one particular injury is affecting us badly, I think very badly. But anyway, we'll get into. So, Alex, brilliant to be on, and of course, we'll talk further in a while. Okay.
Thank you. So H-man 1. Start with the A-man, Aldric. Now, before we went live, you said that it hasn't been, a long time. For me, it feels like a long time since you were back on the Easy Talk.
Yeah, it was right before the start of the season. But I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be back home. This is a warm place to share a lot of things about our favorite team, and I'm happy with the present that we have right now.
Okay, brilliant. You know what, Aldric? I remember when I used to have an afro a long time ago. It's all gone now.
So did I.
Well, I'm taking advantage that I can still use it. I'm 33. I don't know if in a couple of years I'll be able to have it like this, so I have to take advantage.
H-man 2, the original.
Yeah, talking about the time I had an afro, I worked with a guitarist who turned up at a gig by the Minories in London, which is by the Mint, in the Tower of London and all that. And he said, and they had a really good rock band. He said, I walked in and there was a fella playing guitar. It looks exactly like you, same guitar style, same color guitar, only he had an afro. And I said, nah, it wasn't me. wrong man. No, it's good to be back. And of course, Tim and I are fresh from managing or coaching a team. Tim is the sort of main man there, and it's really interesting. I was thinking, because I've seen the way Tim and the other coaches work, and sometimes towards the end of a game you're helpless. You've got to, I think, Tim, in the final that our team has just played, we were a point or two up with 5 or 6 minutes to go, and there wasn't a lot we could do, a bit like Arteta last night. And as you said to me, Tim, now we find out how passionate the boys are and how much they're keen to win. And of course, Arteta panicked and did the worst thing ever. He should have accepted a defeat, and he started playing people. I heard Gabriel went off limping, and what's the name got booked? Xhaka got booked, and he kind of panicked when actually he lost the match long before the sort of team came out, when he decided to play substandard players against a very, very good European team.
Yeah.
And it was only ever, as I heard Tim speak earlier, saying, we could have lost 5-0 easily. We would have a couple of marginal offsides that, were offsides. But if their players have been looking at along the line, which you're supposed to do, they could have easily have scored those goals, and it would have been a drubbing.
Yeah. Well, let's just hold tight. We're going to get into actually the game yesterday, PSV versus Arsenal. But what I do want to say from the top of the show, Pablo Mari, from the morning show, in Arsenal defender being treated in the hospital after being stabbed in a shopping centre attack in Italy. So Pablo Mari has actually undergone surgery. I think, according to reports, he was saved by his height, 6'4" tall. He was, I think, he had his son in the trolley, and he was walking with his wife, and he felt a pain in the back of his neck, and he realised he had been stabbed. And he actually says, "Today I was lucky because I saw a person die in front of me." I have since put a message on our WhatsApp group that Pablo Mari, his own words, said literally that he's grateful for the support and messaging, but he is okay. He's recovering in the hospital, and thereby, by the grace of God, do we all go. So, from everyone on Cannon 40 TV, you know what, we wish him, a speedily recovery. Oh my goodness, what's going on? What's going on?
Everything is wrong. Everything is wrong in the world.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be happening at any place.
Goodness, yeah. But you know what? Let's talk about the first segment. Now, the game yesterday with PSV Eindhoven and Arsenal. Aldric, were you surprised at how Arsenal played? What were you expecting from the return leg with PSV, Aldric?
Well, what I could say about the team is that now the board needs to see that we need to back the team. We need to add a couple of more pieces for us to be able to make that rotation. I understood Arteta on previous interviews that he said that he is using all the guys he has. And it's true. We don't have a team to make a rotation, but the guys needs to get used to that. If we are aspiring to go to the Champions League, this is the perfect test for us to know how to play week in and week out, at least two days a week. So this is the perfect test, and that should have and it happened at the perfect moment. This is like the best time for us to lose. We're still top of the group, and now Arteta and the board needs to know what they can do to add a couple of reinforcement at the team, because we need a rotational team, and the guys who comes in, they need to mark a difference or keep the same energy that the initial 11 has. I'm not disappointed. I'm not surprised. This has to happen by any time. So I think that this is like we have a lot to learn on this defeat.
Yeah. But just quickly going back, Aldric, the comments from Mikel Arteta saying that, well, actually top players are expected to play 70 plus games a season. And actually, I don't want players knocking on my door saying, hey, listen, boss, I need a break. Be prepared to play 70 games a minute. Actually, 70 games a season. With the squad numbers that we have, Aldric, can we afford to ask these players to play 70 games a season?
Not yet. Not yet. We are building that team to do that, and this is like the first season that we are competing like with a full squad and having European competitions. So that leaves a spot that it's against us, because we started very well, but this is for us to know that we need to rotate the team. That's the difficult thing, because they are having like the first season with a lot of competition. We haven't started the FA Cup. We haven't started the League Cup yet. Once we start those competitions, we will need to be prepared. The players needs to be prepared. So I'm crossing my fingers, because I'm saying to another group that we have from Gunners in Costa Rica, like, for me, the worst phase of the season is between December and January, and we're getting close to that.
Mm-hmm. Tim, fatigue, tiredness.
Well, of course, we are top of one league. I'd like to have you known. We're top of the league that got played the most 11 players, has picked the most 11 players most often. So in other words, we are the team that's putting out the most players most often. Which, look, we saw the effect of that last night. We're tired. And of course, the Thursday night fixture is a harder fixture to manage than the Champions League fixture of Tuesday or Wednesday. You've more time to recover. And I'm glad we started, actually, and my own personal condolences to Pablo Mari, and I hope we wish him a quick recovery. But the last time that Arsenal were in the Europa League, I remember the group well because Dundalk were actually in the group, and it was Dundalk, Rapid Vienna, and there was also a Norwegian team. Was it Molde? But all those teams aren't as good as this present group. PSV Eindhoven are a top Dutch team, and if one thing alone you could highlight their European caliber, it could be how well their fans sang "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life" last night. They sang it so beautifully and in such good English. But anyway, but on a more serious note, and we had to head up inside the Arctic Circle to try and win a match where they'd won the previous 14. We had all these. So in the last time we were in the Europa League, I remember the Dundalk fixtures. It was 11 different players that had played for Arsenal the previous and the Saturday. In other words, we had 22 different players that time. We don't have that. Or put it this way, we probably have them, but we couldn't put them out. We got Pablo Mari was a key figure in that second 11 actually at that time. This would have been the time of David Luiz would have been our first choice center half, and maybe Gabriel might have been. But we had Holding, I suppose. Although there's a player now that had not a good night last night, to be honest about it.
Yeah. But I actually thought the whole team the team as a whole, they just did not have a good night in the office. I'm just trying to think of one player. There's not one player who had a relatively good performance last night, Tim.
The only one player I would pick out, I would agree with you for 10 out of the 11. I felt that, firstly, I do believe that there could be something wrong with the surface, because when you see players like Saka and Vieira who have very good touches. Now, Vieira doesn't look to be physically ready for the upper end of the Premier League, and I would agree with that. But funnily enough, at times with the ball at his feet last night, I felt he looked better, but he doesn't have the athleticism. And out on the right, he really can't beat a player. He's a passing player. He's that type. He brings players into it. But he was the only one, and I'm talking like just about. I'm not going to go. But Xavi Simon's goal that was disallowed before half time, it was a comedy of errors. Holding missed it. Tierney missed it. Saliba missed it. Who is, let's be honest, our star in our jewel of our defence. And I have a young fella, as Terry would testify, running around here with an Arsenal jersey and Gabriel written on the back of it. Well, I tell you, I told him this morning, mind that jersey, because that man, even though, look, he makes mistakes, but all those type of honest, hard-working, decent players, they make mistakes. All through the years. There's very few Virgil van Dijk, Paul McGrath, Tony Adams, that quality of defender. There's often the other partner is just a hard-working guy that's willing to put his head in, and that's what Gabriel brings to you. And the biggest loss I think we've had is when we couldn't field our first 11, which everyone seems to know, is when Zinchenko went off the team. He was providing a certain stability kind of at the back of midfield, defensive midfield, and he was allowing Xhaka go forward. Like, he, to me, is the reason Xhaka has played well. Last night, Xhaka had to come back a bit more, and he was back to the Xhaka of old, temperamental, kind of erratic, and just getting tied up on things. He could very easily have got sent off, for the time he put his two hands around your man. It was the wrong referee sent you off for that. But that's my belief with fatigue, is that I think it's a hard fixture to manage, Thursday night fixtures, and if this European Super League, which I saw touted in the papers only during the week again, if that comes in, there'll be a lot more travelling around Europe going ahead. So the coaches and management is going to get very much involved in that aspect of the game.
Tim, do you think Arteta told players just go out there for the draw?
No, but I think he picked the team feeling he had to draw. And another thing, of course, which we didn't realise, and Terry, you have said this on numerous occasions, the value of the big man. He brought on your man at half-time, De Jong. Next thing, he caused havoc. Holding was the wrong side of him, and then he tried to turn him to be easier to get around the Titanic. There was no way you would come out the wrong side of him, and he was going to keep you the wrong side of him, and that was the problem. Now, Ramsdale was definitely at fault for the second goal, but look, your man missed a header at the back post as well. He was chaotic. He was everything. Arsenal could learn a bit from that, because I think Jesus is a brilliant player. He's very creative. He's really slick feet. He's great touch. He's he's opened up. I saw our attacking zone figures actually, and out on the left, he seems to be the sole contributor really, and we're much more, how would I say, penetrative going through the middle than we were last year. But I was reading there's something about Erling Haaland, and actually it was Liam Brady made the point on the RTE coverage the other night in what was it, Man City and Dortmund, is it? They were playing the other night, and Brady said everyone talks about Haaland and the goals and the speed and the header. He still gets the tap-ins, he said. Don't forget that. He gets the tap-ins too. And we have to start getting tap-ins again. So we have to make sure that we are getting the wins. And now I'm dominating here, and Alex just tell me stop.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
But the thing is, Arsenal last season, on 2 or 3 occasions, lost 3 matches, and they got in the habit towards the end of the season of losing consecutive matches. This is the real test of Arsenal, is this Sunday. Are they going to bounce back? Are they going to win? And that's the point I think Terry was making earlier. The responsibility now has transitioned from the management to the leaders on the team. Is Gabriel, who I feel he will now, by the way, he will stand up and say, will Ramsdale raise his game again? Odegaard, Partey, like, are these players? Like, Odegaard was kind of anonymous, like, and I'm a big Odegaard fan now. I felt he was kind of anonymous. And Martinelli's chance and his chance, they were the ones. We needed one of those. If we got one of those, we'd have nearly got a draw out of it last night. But particularly the one Martinelli got, he didn't let it drop. He took it too high in his chest. But, like, Martinelli to me is the one that looks fatigued. He kind of just let God direct it, like, was his attitude, I felt.
Well,
I don't like one.
Godfather.
Yeah, listen, a quick one, and we're probably going to talk a lot about the way Tim manages the team with the hurling team that we've been working with, because it's so pertinent to what Arteta does right and sometimes wrong. But I know some of our players are watching, so I'm only just going to give their first name. One's called our captain for the final was Oshin. We have Liam, who's also a big Arsenal fan. We have Jack, our goalkeeper. And I think Paul, our goalkeeper from our captain from last year, is also an Arsenal fan. So there's a lot, and there may be more. And this is what I went round for. I'm dropping it into Tim tomorrow. This is the last year we won the cup. This year, the Shield. It's a special Shield. It's a knockout competition. Our name will be on that. It'll be written in Irish, so it won't be quite so easy to read. And this is the schlitter, which they sort of play with. You get it in different colours and so on. And they play with a bat, if you like this. It's an absolutely enormous thing. It's made out of ash, or more recently bamboo. And it's the world's fastest ball field sport. So all those players, even during our semi-final, which we played in an absolute monsoon and won, we came off, went into the dressing room, and all the lads turned to me, "What's the Arsenal score?" So, even though they got through to a final, they still wanted to hear the Arsenal score. So listen, a big hello to Tim's team. Really, Tim does a masterclass in training. There's a couple of other lads, Alan and John and myself, and they've won 2 cups, if you like, or a cup and a shield. And what I have noticed when Tim is talking to them, we do all the hard work in training, and then we clear their minds when they're about to play. And at half time, we don't fill their heads with stuff. So I think what Arteta got wrong was he tried to play a substandard team against a very good team, and then he tried to sort of to push players into positions they sort of weren't good at. So, for instance, Lokonga, he didn't play for Anderlecht, and he was captain. Remember, he didn't play for them in this holding midfield role, and we're kind of forcing him to play in a place on the pitch where he doesn't know his angles, he hasn't got the correct touch. And he looked a fish out of water, as though he really didn't fancy it. And then when you look through the team, as Tim was saying, Vieira is a touch player. And on that pitch yesterday, it was a wet pitch. It was a heavy night. You need big men. It's no surprise that Giroud, who used to play for us, scored wherever he went. He scored for France, and he's in Milan now, and he's still scoring. So you need a plan B, and we basically don't have a plan B. And one final thing to back that up, I was looking today, and it said that we have the highest number of entries into the opponent's half. It's something like 73 or 78% of our games are played in the opponent's half. But what that means is that was to counterattack. And what did PSV do? They counterattacked. And our illustrious leader, Herbert Chapman, who made Arsenal famous in the 1930s, his famous quote was, "You can have the ball too much." And what we're doing is we're squeezing all 22 players virtually into one half of the pitch. And the way PSV played it very simply, the way you beat that is to try and stand on the shoulders of the Arsenal defenders, hope you don't get caught offside, and the ball's played into the green grass behind them. And yes, they could have had 5 goals, but they still scored 2. And they brought on a big guy. So in a way, when Arteta started mucking about at the end and bringing on different players, listen, Nketiah scored. I was at the match, I think 2 seasons ago, and we were playing Sunderland in a League Cup final, in a League Cup match, like the 3rd or 4th or 5th round, something like that. And he scored a hat-trick because that's his level.
Yeah.
As soon as you put him up at the elite level, he's not quite there. And I think Arteta thought, well, I can work with players, I can improve them. And he has improved. But last night, he just wasn't good enough. And as soon as we substituted him with Jesus, we looked a much better team. So sadly, we've got a very good, maybe 11, 12, 13, 14 players. But once you start going beyond that, we really haven't got a good backup. And we all know that. And as we all know, Holding was turned inside out. And then we ended up with poor Tierney trying to defend against a 6'2", 6'3" attacker for PSV's second goal. So it's not going to happen. And it was a shambles. Whether they didn't have enough time to think about it, but they needed somebody to say to them, you can't keep... Listen, one quick one. When we played our final, we didn't train the week before or two nights before or whatever. In some ways, that was to our benefit because our players were really fresh. Now, if I were Arteta, I'd be looking at the way we train these players and don't leave your strength and your pace on the training pitch. Skip a few sessions because the players have been playing, 1 or 2 matches each week. Give them a session off. Bring them into a match fresh rather than train, play.
Yeah.
I just think that we're a little bit too harsh on Eddie Nketiah. I know he scored 2 goals from 5 starts in the Europa League, but Gabriel Jesus has not scored in the last 6 games, Terry.
I know. Well, he looks a bit as though he's wondering, am I running the whole show?
Yeah.
If they don't play Saka and Martinelli, who has to be fit, don't keep playing him if he's tiring. Those 2 have been chiming in with goals. And then we've had Xhaka playing in an advanced sort of 8, and he's been chiming in with goals. But as soon as you start playing other players, it all goes to pot. And listen, there's no harm at this part of the season for us to have a defeat. I remember one championship winning team of Arsenal. We went away to Stoke and lost 5-0. We lost 5-0 away. Bang. And that was the only big defeat we had that season. I think we had about two or three more small defeats. So sometimes it's like a wake-up call. And now, as he said, we're going to have to think about this, go back and say, where did it go wrong? Well, it went wrong because he played square pegs in round holes, and he's got some players that really aren't good enough to play. They're probably good enough to play against Zurich. I mean, I say that a week in advance. Let's hope I'm right. But they certainly weren't good enough to play against PSV.
Aldrich, your thoughts very quickly about comparisons with Eddie Nketiah. Maybe Eddie Nketiah is just a championship player, not a Premier League player. Your thoughts?
What I think is in regards to the team itself is not just Eddie. If you see, we tried to rotate Partey with Lokonga, and Lokonga wasn't doing well. So I don't think that this is like Arteta's fault because he is making a rotation. Some
Yeah.
players are not responding as it should, but we don't have
Yep.
to alarm ourselves. I think that we're like in the best part of the season for us to see our weaknesses, and this is a wake up call for Eddie. If the market arrives and Arteta and the board signs on a striker, we are giving him the chances. He has to take the opportunity. Now I do see a different Eddie. I like how he is on the pitch, how he looks at the pitch. We don't see a player that with his head down. We are seeing him fighting every ball as Jesus does. But those two players needs to fire up. They need to start scoring. They are the only two natural strikers that we have on the team, and we depend on them for us to score more in on the pitch. We've been lacking of goals in the past games. I think that this is something that we need to focus on, because if we are more effective with the chances that we have at the first half, we won't be even talking about weaknesses on the team, because one thing that has been good for us at the beginning of the season is that we started scoring at every single match. In fact, yesterday's match was the only game of the season so far that we didn't score a goal. So that's what we need to do. We're missing a lot of chances. That's something that stays always on my mind, because I haven't missed a game during the season so far, and what I do see is that we have a lot of energy and we get to the opposite side during the first 15, 20 minutes of the game, but we are not taking our chances. I think that that's the thing that we need to work on, because if we are start lacking of goals, it's going to be like past season.
Yeah.
Now we're playing good. We are having an structured team. I like the way we're playing. I like the way we put in pressure when we don't have the ball. But we need to score more goals. That's the main thing that we need to focus on.
Yeah. But Aldo, do you not think that maybe Gabriel Jesus is trying too hard, knowing that you feel that the World Cup is just around the corner? Is he not trying too hard to? I don't know. What is he trying to do against Southampton? He was pulling shots wide. He was, scuppering shots. Is he just off form, Aldrich? Or it's just
I think that it's a lack of form, a temporary lack of form, but as soon as he starts scoring again, we will see the Gabriel Jesus we saw since the first day of preseason. That's all he needs to do. But I think that we need to put a little pressure by on his side and sign another striker, or a player who does the role as a striker or winger, because we can depend on what we have right now. Because if someone is lacking of goals, we need to have a backup to start putting pressure on the team.
yeah. And just one more before we go into live chat, Aldrich. The situation with Alexander Zinchenko. He's been out since the North London derby, and I did look at his injury record, which was quite extensive. How do you feel about the sign of Alexander Zinchenko?
Well, it took me by surprise because the injury that he had at the beginning didn't look that bad. But that's something that we have. This is like a course that we have, and the player that got this course on this season, it was Sinchenko. Last season it was Tierney. So for this season, unfortunately, we are seeing it on Sinchenko. But I hope that the club, I think that they are doing well. We're not forcing a player to come back. This is something that we usually do when we depend a lot of a certain player. We rush like his recovery time, and that's something that is being something that has cost us points and even the season. So they're doing well on trying to make sure that Zinchenko comes back well, because if he does, well, we need him for the upcoming games. So I'm not like thinking wrong or type of scared about the delay with his recovery. I think that we need to prepare him better because the tough part of the season is about to come, and we need to be well to have the players at their best physically.
Yeah. Actually, Tim, I want to ask you a question very quickly before we go into the live chat.
Yeah.
Do you think we are overreacted to a solitary defeat in the Euro League?
Yes. Two defeats in 16 matches. That's it. That's what we've had. And one of those was to Man United. So I would not be ready. I would say let things settle here now. Beat Forest if we can to again and get back on. Last week, on the 2 week, was it real? I think it was last week. It was, before the Southampton, or maybe even after the Southampton match, we were second in the league if you did it on XGs for and against. In other words, we weren't first because obviously this is a kind of an extrapolation going forward, but working on that, Man City are a mile ahead. But we are the definite second. In other words, we're ahead of Liverpool, we're ahead of Chelsea, we're ahead of Tottenham. We're in a place that we could really be a strong contender in several competitions if we just keep our house in order. And definitely, if Zinchenko and White at fullback providing a lot of solidity, with obviously the central positions manned by Gabriel and Saliba, we have a really good defensive unit. And I think Jesus is it's a little dip. That's all it is a small dip because he doesn't get the tap-ins, but he's very creative. Oh, he's a magic player to watch. Like you would watch it. I mean, that's the one thing I think like that he has. Him and Saka are the two players you'd say they are really world-class players. You'd go up the road to look at those. You'd say they can pull something out of the fire. The problem is heavy pitches, foreign pitch, Joe, maybe, like, let's be honest, the Premier League grounds now are manicured pitches, the ball's flying out. When you see Saka and Vieira miscontrolling a ball over in Eindhoven, I saw Ramsdale made a quote today, they weren't blaming the pitch, but definitely the pitch wasn't in great nick, and that's what, and like, I don't want to be down on Eddie Nketiah, but he's got a lot of chances, and he's all right as a squad player, and look, he could even be reasonably good against Forest. I'm not putting him down at that level at all. But going over there, and next thing you weren't as clinical at Joe. We were giving up chances. They are a counter-attacking team. Like they were drawing themselves on us. They wanted to come out and play on the counter. Actually, it was very, very similar to the United match because United did the exact same thing. They let us attack, and they hit us on the counter. And PSV did pretty much the exact same thing. So I don't think we're in a bad way at all. I think we've 2 matches lost out of 16. We're in a good place. But the one thing I would say, we need to get injuries back. We need to get all our players in the field. And these Thursday night fixtures they're hard to manage. And heading up to the Arctic Circle, that's not an easy gig. And like things like that they're not easy fixtures. And ultimately the World Cup maybe it could be a blessing in disguise. And we do have a good strong defence. We do have, let's say, some issues maybe in midfield, but not unsolvable ones. And for the first time in 3 or 4 seasons, we have a definite starting 11. Do you know, if they were all fit in the 2, we could name our starting 11, and that's a great starting point. Because Liverpool can't say that anymore. Like, I mean, Alexander, I remember the last time I was on here, I think it was myself and Richard and Terry and Hua, but I remember stating Alexander Arnold won't go to I think he won't start for England, and he's not even starting for Liverpool now. You know what I mean? Yeah. They were in trouble from a long way out. At least we have that a bit more freshness than they have. They've been going to have for 2 or 3 years. We could easily be challenging Man City after Christmas.
Okay, so the wheels are not falling off just yet. Anyhow, we've reached the halfway point on this easy talk here, and make sure that you do subscribe and make sure you hit the bell notification button so you can receive the crazy gang. Eltel. People have been asking me about where's Eltel? Where is he? Is he held up somewhere? Where is he? Well, he's here. He's here with us on the easy talk. Anyway, let's go into the live chat. So the first comment we've got from Ashley says, "Hey up, Gunners. Welcome to Canal 4 TV, and it's the ever-changing crazy gang." No, I prefer the Alphabet Street people. The H1, the A1. As one gets locked up in the nut house, another one joins the nut house. This is not a nut house. Actually, Dean, what's wrong with you? And Colin Young says LTEL is in the house.
Hey,
Evening, chaps and chat rooms. Do you think Arteta can still be called inexperienced after 3 years at the helm? We're using all the players in the squad. Arteta picked Aldrich. Is he still inexperienced?
Well, I don't think that he's an experienced. I think that we even assigned an experienced coach. This is like his first role as a manager, but we signed someone who knows what he had to do when he was in charge of it. His experience at Manchester City was fundamental, so we can see how he wants to play, how he treats the ball, well, how the team treats the ball. And he was a former Arsenal player, so he knows the Arsenal way. It's not just about winning, it's winning the Arsenal way, and he has that DNA. I don't think that he can be called inexperienced at all. Even when he first got the position as our manager, I was confident that he will handle the pressure well, because he was at the pitch as a player in one of our worst times. So I don't think that could be something difficult for him to continue with it because he was used to it. He lived it.
Yeah. Godfather, still an inexperienced or an excellent manager now? What is he?
well, he's got to learn to lose and come back and lose and come back. That's I know when we signed Ramsdale, we wanted to look at him when he let in a goal, and did he let it affect him? And now Arteta, in this 3 years he's been with us, his first managership, he's got to learn now, because his team have dipped a bit in quite an important match, and he's got a very tricky game coming up. This team took Klopp's lads out, so this is where he learns to look at him. What I would do if I were him, I'd look at myself first and say, did I get anything wrong? Did we put square pegs in round holes? Did we put players that were too tired? Or, what could I have done differently before we start looking at players? And I'm sure, as we were saying, Martin Keown was very upset with the way Holding played. Lokonga, I thought, played very poorly. Yes, you can look at all those things, but I think he's got to look at himself first. And the trouble is, I really don't know whether this is Stuyvesant and Steve Round that are next to him. I do hope they aren't yes men. I do hope they kind of pull him aside occasionally and say, we all got it wrong there, and let's relook at the way we planned it. I think whatever he did with those players that he sent out, it was never going to work, because what most teams do is they have the same game plan. Now, if you have the same game plan, which we do, it's 4-3-3, and when we're in attack, we try and play 5 players across in front, okay, 2 in the sort of half channels and so on, and two defenders, and push 1 fullback up asymmetrically and all that. But you can kind of read that. What I think he's got to do now is he's got to do a few tactical changes so that we've got another way to play. Don't keep doing it, because it's very easy, as Tim was saying, what's going to happen. Arsenal are going to attack you, 5 men going for you, and then you're going to be able to hit them on the counter attack. So he's got to think that one through and not be quite so obvious in what Arsenal are going to do. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because at our very best, when we had Vieira and Thierry Henry, they did play so well that a lot of the managers used to say, I know how Arsenal are going to set up. I know how Arsenal are going to play. That's not the problem. The problem is stopping them. So if you have phenomenal footballers and athletes like Thierry Henry, there's almost nothing you can do, because he whizzes past you straight away. And on that, I must emphasise that it's been a long time since we've had a left-footed attacking player with Saka's skills. The last one I can think of that was that good is Liam Brady. And Liam didn't come into world class until he was about 23. And Saka's, what is he, 20, 21? And we've got a very, very, very special player there. Look after him, Arsenal. Make sure you don't overplay him. But he has got something that nobody else in that team has. He is a real embryonic world-class player.
And he's not signed a contract extension, has he?
No, that's the problem.
Well,
It's about
all you got to do is ask the henchmen to sort him out.
Tell us, some people might say you are the henchman.
Oh, yeah.
I'm asking you, tell.
Well, hang on.
Sign.
If you...
Yeah.
All right, let's go in the live chat. Oh, got John the Geezer Gooner, who says, evening
Oh.
Gooners, evening Gooners.
Evening, John.
And Colin reminded everyone,
Hey, John.
now, like the button needs some love, people. Love. Big up the Irish Gunners. What else do we have here? Oh, we've got Lynn Simpson. Lynn, good evening to you. Says, even Alex and the guests. The comment is, yes, we can beat Forest on Sunday. However, it won't be an easy game. And like I said the other day, I would like to see Jesus on the wing and Martinelli through the middle, as he is a stringer?
maybe less is stronger.
A stronger player.
Maybe. Because definitely against Southampton, he was bullied. Yeah, he was. Come now, your man, the referee let it go a bit too far as well, but he was definitely bullied that day. Your man, the centre half was over him, both hands, and when he got away with the one in the first half, that was in 90% the penalty. When he got him outside the box, he stopped at nothing. Then he was just pulling and dragging, and he has got that issue, all right, that he isn't terribly physically strong, but he's very elusive and he's great touch and he's quick passing, and he's a very admirable player, but definitely strength is an issue. And maybe Martinelli might be, reinvigorated going through the middle, because I felt last night Martinelli wasn't the Martinelli of 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think he's come back. I know Eddie Nketiah was the one that was getting on the slack this morning. He was the first line. But I felt Martinelli, you hold him to a higher standard. You know what I mean? He's a good player. You would hold him to that. You'd imagine he could. But look, they're over there. They're I see a man, Xavi Simons, talking about all the gym work they're doing. They probably slowed down the whole field. They knew what was coming to town, and they have a passionate support. They're a big club. They're a big European club. They have a tradition. It mightn't be of English standards or Spanish standards, but the Dutch league always has produced players, and they would be one of the top 3 clubs in the Dutch league. So there's no.
The Assemble, good evening, Assemble, says, Eltel, are you questioning Arteta's way of thinking?
Yep, absolutely.
Right,
if you don't question yourself before you question others, it's gonna go wrong. So when a match doesn't go well, you question what you've done first. Don't immediately think, oh, the players have let me down, and say, right, could I have done something different? And even if you have to lock him in a room for 24 hours and take the light bulb out of it, make him think hard for a while before he starts, and he won't. He's clever enough not to ball the players out. But yeah, some players did let him down, but he played some players in positions they shouldn't be playing, and he needs to find a different way of. Listen, it was never. People forget the match we played at home against PSV. We didn't trounce them. It was a 1-0 win, and we didn't look fantastic. They looked as though they were frightened of us, and obviously we managed to squeeze a 1-0 win. And obviously Nistelrooy must have said, listen, don't be frightened of these guys, because you can take the game to them. And the second half, my goodness, did they take the game to us. And that team we played from Bodo Glimt, they did the same, actually, in both matches. They took the game to us in the second half. I know people have said that we start the first half really well, but recently we've been falling away in the second half. But there you go.
Yeah.
That's what he's got to be asking himself. Why?
John the Geezer says, bottom line is people are paying good money to see these games. A loss is acceptable if 100% effort has been applied. Right, we're going to go in the penultimate topic. Is it my favorite topic? Maybe I'm not sure. I have exchanged messages with Eltel and James wrote about this gentleman here. Unai Emery is back in the Premier League, Aldric, as the head coach of Aston Villa. Your thoughts, Aldric?
He deserves that second chance at the Premier League. Unfortunately, it didn't work for us. That was a relationship that was messed up since the beginning. And I think that he's a very good coach. He proved himself. He even improved and showed us that he was a good manager. But I think that he's gonna do well. He knew about his previous experience with us. The language barrier was something very important. I know that he fixed that for sure, so he can have a better communication with his team. But I don't think that he's gonna make like such a difference. That was a signing for Villa to have more stability. That's something that Unai offers, but it's nothing like to be concerned from our end because of the realities of the teams. Arsenal now is talking about qualifying for Champions League and up to this date even fighting for the Premier League. But I think that he's gonna do well. I think for sure that he's gonna have like something different that he had in here. It just didn't work for us.
Mm-hmm. And for you, Tim?
Yeah, well, look, it's good to see him get a second chance because I think the Premier League budget on the last transfer spend, so the entire was 1.9 billion. He's coming from Villarreal. A fraction of that would get you a lot of players. He has vast experience, obviously, of La Liga. He also, of course, has a savage reputation across not alone Spain, but across Europe in all his success in the Europa League. So, Joe, if he gets the money, he'd be able to compete with a lot of strong clubs offering players that he maybe have spotted that were probably out of his budget region when Villarreal, but could possibly be within his budget region when he goes to Villa. So I'd say he will make a difference. We saw, now, not to, as Aldrich said, not to the same level, but we saw when Arsene Wenger arrived in Arsenal, next thing there was a lot of French players arrived that maybe had fallen off the radar, and next thing like I said, it won't be that level of impact, obviously, but he could have a serious impact. You could see a lot of Spanish players arriving, Spanish and maybe players with a European caliber arriving in Villa because he has seen them and they respect him, and now he has money. So it's a good cocktail. But of course, Villa are Villa. There's always potential of an explosion there. But like but he definitely, I'd say they'll give him a couple of he'll get the January transfer window. He'll get opportunities to freshen it up. He is a good coach. The language difficulty, I think he's multilingual. I think just English wasn't one of his languages. So I think he's rectified that issue, or he's straightened it up. I would say that he is very much a forward step for Villa from where they were. He's a broader coach, a much stronger coach than Steven Gerrard, and he could definitely develop into something strong like that.
Yeah. Godfather, when you're finished taking the H2O, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I read his biography while he was our manager, and his history of turning clubs around has been nothing short of phenomenal. He started off from memory in Almeria, which is a little seaside resort south of Alicante, and he brought them up a couple of divisions. And every club he's gone to, he's done incredibly well. And unfortunately, he was the interregnum, if you like, between George Graham and between Arsene Wenger and Arteta. And that always happens. We had it years before Wenger came. We had George Graham, and then for one season we had Bruce Rioch. And you do get these managers that only last 1 or 2 seasons, and then it all turns around again. So unfortunately, he was on a hide into nothing. I thought he did pretty well. There was nothing wrong. If you think about it, he got to that European final, didn't he, against Chelsea? And he was quite right in his summation. He said, The only player that made a difference between the two teams was Eden Hazard. And what's happened to him since, no one knows. He's completely blown up. But if you could have taken Eden Hazard out of that match, then Arsenal would have probably won it. So, and then his history, he could still be at Arsenal now. So, yes, we kind of got Arteta in, and Arteta's learning, and he's doing very, very well. But Unai Emery, I could find no fault in him. He did what he could, following on from a very, Arsenal's longest-serving manager who won so much silverware. It was a tough call, and unfortunately, the sort of stupid, airhead, racist fans just took it upon themselves to find his attempts at speaking English hilarious, which it actually wasn't, because he can speak English far better than I can speak Spanish. So, it's nothing funny. And he was doing a very, very good job and trying his best, with the language. And the team were good. Getting to listen. If we get to a European final this year, we'll all be very happy. Yeah. So no, I think he's a good manager. With Villarreal, he proved it again, and I hope he does well. Not against us, but I hope he does well for Aston Villa.
All right, let's go back into live chat, maybe for the penultimate time. Lynn commenting about the players' fatigue and tiredness. Yes, but at this early in the season, these players should not be tired. These are coached to be able to play 2 games a week. It's ridiculous to say that they are too tired, Aldrich.
I think the same. They are preparing not just footballers, they are also athletes. We're not talking about football in 1990, 1980. Now they have their physios. If you saw Gabriel Jesus' interview previous to the Europa League game against PSV, he said that he was ready, that he was doing his recovery at home, making the recovery at the club. And I go with the same thing that I was mentioning at the beginning of the program. If a player aspires to be at the top, if a team aspires to be at the top, well, they need to get used to play week in and week out, even 2-3 days a week. And we have to be aware that we're a wealthy club. We have a well-structured club, and they will recover the players properly for the upcoming days and with the training that they had to do. We cannot talk about fatigue at this time of the season, but I know that this is going to be an issue in the future. So we need to talk about it to fix it, but in a couple of months, not at this time of the season. And well, we have to keep our fingers crossed for us not to have any of our key players injured, because I think that is going to be something that we will not be able to recover, instead of something like muscular or talking about rotating the team.
Okay. John says, Lynn Simpson, these fellas want to work on a building site 5 days a week. Well, my dad worked on a building site for almost 30 odd years. May his soul rest in peace. Colin says, Eddie, decent guy, warm story, but he just cannot be our plan B. Second choice, he's just not good enough. Colin says, right. And then brother says, Alex and crew, we need a second squad to compete in the Premiership and Europe. We haven't got the firepower. Yes, I've just said it, and I mean it. Eddie's second striker, not good enough. The assemble comes back and says, Alex, are you wearing rose-tinted glasses? No. When you're talking about Nketiah, there's nothing about him that says 100,000 per week. If you own the club, would you pay him 100,000? That wage comes with expectations. Well, there's a reason why they've given him a 5-year contract. There's a reason why they paid him £100,000, and there's a reason why they gave him the number 14 shirt. People got so upset about Tim. Tim, what's the reason?
I don't know. I think, look, to be honest, he was last year. Let's be honest, Lacazette really became more of a link player than anything else, and in comparison, Eddie Nketiah looked better than he probably was. Lacazette was very much the end of his career. This guy was getting the odd goal. We were desperate for results, trying to get into the top 4 at the time. Like, it should be remembered, Like last year was not, Joe. It was better than the previous year, but he was the guy. I remember he against when we got to the Europa League final. The time. He got a lot of goals. He got a lot of, the semi-final, the year Villarreal beat us, the semi-final. He got a lot of goals in the earlier rounds of that as well. That's his level. Group stages in Europa League. Now, last night it was a group stage match, but it was against a good club, so he struggled. But he's not what you call. And I do believe that he probably flattered to deceive towards the end of last year, based on the comparison with a striker that was aging and had maybe taken up a different role. And when Aubameyang left, Lacazette, remember, he was captain and everything for a while, and there was probably a lot of responsibility. And I'd say maybe behind the scenes in the dressing room, there was trying to build a sense of unity, and Arteta maybe probably kind of half rewarded him for that, or like the commentator said, maybe he saw him through rose-tinted glasses for a while.
Anyway, we've got Paul in the North Bank. It says that even Eltel and the rest of the crazy gang keep calling me crazy.
Hey.
Am I crazy? I'm crazy. Last one.
Yeah, we're all crazy.
I think Arteta needs to slightly change the system, because teams are beginning to find us out. Eltel.
Well, funnily enough, the goals that Xhaka scored, both with his right foot in preceding games, were exactly what you wouldn't expect. It was the element of surprise. The ball came to him on his wrong peg, as it were, and he had to hit it with what is normally his standing foot. But he scored in both times. So you've got to have an element of surprise. And one of the obvious things we could do, as well as trying to push forward, is when we can't get the ball into the middle, knock it back to the sort of area around the D, outside the penalty area, known as zone 14, and have midfield players coming through. I know they've tried to do that with Ødegaard. Can I just mention a quick word about Ødegaard? I worry that we've actually made him captain. I know he's a good player, and I know in the dressing room people listen to him. But, you know, I go back to the days of when we had captains that would fire up the troops and would run through hail and bullets and icy rain, you know, rather than these tasty little players, you know, and so on. And I know he's captain of his country and so on, but if you compare him to the Tony Adams clenched fist, you know, when we're playing up against a northern club on a bitterly cold, rainy evening and driving the men forward. And I don't see that in Ødegaard. And I know, maybe I shouldn't be looking for that. But I always think if you've got a player like that, not just one who leads by example, but that can G up the troops and say, refuse to lose. I didn't see that in Ødegaard's character. And I do worry that we're going to have some rocky nights ahead. I mean, personally, I think this is just a dip in form, and I think we will come back. But I don't think we'll get any higher than top four. And like most fans are saying, we're unlikely to win the league. But you never know, you know. But yeah, I do worry that listen, I know Xhaka's had a terrible history, and I used to call him half a player.
No, don't say it. Don't say it. Granit Xhaka's captain.
Well,
no.
If you leave him, well, I'm going to tell you what you do. You leave him as an advanced number 8 and tape his mouth up so he can't start abusing ref. Right? But he has that spirit. Now, of course, it boils over. So we should be looking for somebody that has that kind of never say die spirit, which he has in abundance. But I just worry that Ødegaard, I don't know. I'm not sure he can pull it out on G up the troops. You know, listen, all teams, even our team, the Invincibles, had hard sessions where they just scraped a draw, or you know, but they did it through, as Tim said in our final. He said, you know, now we find out how much the boys want it, you know, and the boys came through. So, you know, it's all about that passion, I think. And that's why we love football, don't we? Because it's passion. In the end, all the skills are very important. Being able to defend and attack and spread yourself across the pitch and 5 attacking lanes and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you want it more than the other team, you will win it as long as all the other things are equal.
Yeah. Just to jump into the captaincy thing, the next long-term captain will be Saliba Etsam. To be honest, I
Yeah.
think he has the makings of a captain. He's able to play. He's dominant. He looks to have a kind of a good game management thing going on for him. And he's in it. And I think we've made this point before in this program. A central midfielder, a central defender, captain. It gives a
Yeah.
certain air of confidence. He can be a real on-field lieutenant for the manager. And Odegaard, the one disappointment I have for Odegaard is for a player that really plays a very attacking role, just pretty much nearly off the front man, he doesn't get enough goals, and his conversion of chances to scores is very poor, very, very poor. But he is honest. He is hardworking. He's a very decent player. I have no issue with him that way. But I don't think he's, as what's it, a Tuesday night in Stoke. I don't think he's the man that's going to rally the troops like that.
And it's your man, the X-Man. Anyway, guys, we're on to the last segment of this Easy Talk. The game on Sunday is going to be an interesting one. If you do make a statement of intent after losing against PSV Eindhoven on a Thursday night, show us what you got on a Sunday afternoon. At the Forest. Aldrich, your thoughts about the Forest game Sunday?
We will bounce back. I know that we will bounce back. This is the perfect test for the team to know what they want to do and how the season wants to be. So I think that Arteta, since yesterday, as soon as they went to the dressing room, he placed the mentality on focusing on the next game, which is this one. It is very important. Chaka said in an interview they want to go to the World Cup being at the top of the league. And that's a good goal. That's a good goal before we go to that break. That will be like a huge step. And we have to remember that we are fighting to be back at the Champions League. The season, it's 38 games for the Premier League. We are competing against a very tough and amazing team, which is Manchester City. But I think that every game of this season is like one step forward to reach our main goal, which is going back to the Champions League. I see it like that. I will start thinking about the Premier League if we are on this position in March or in February even. That for me to talk about the league. Now we have to focus on that main goal. And I think that the team, this is like the perfect step for us to know what we're gonna do if we keep that same good run of games without losing. That's like the secret. We have to keep that those good results for us to reach out the Champions League spot. We are not competing against a tough Chelsea. We're not competing against a tough Liverpool. But the season is very young. We don't know if by the end of the season they are going to keep winning and keep pushing like Chelsea did last season. They weren't that good at the beginning, and they were able to kick us out from the Champions League spot with Tottenham. So I hope that we get a good run of games, that we can talk about the third lose of the season like in 5, 6, 7, or even another 9 games. But that's what we have to keep focusing on to maintain that good form that has us on what we are right now.
And for you, Tim, Sunday.
Yeah, look, this is Arteta. I just commented some of it earlier. This is Arteta's team. He bought Ramsdale, he bought Jesus, and he bought every player in between. This is his. He set the tone now. He has to go out now and win this match. There's no, I inherited this, so I had to play a guy here. He has his squad. Okay, maybe they had a bad result midweek, but ultimately he has real quality players. They look to have, how would I say, a unity that not as far as bought an entire team. In other words, they bought an entire team, they got promoted, and then they buy 18 or 19 players or something, unbelievable amount of players. So they're only gelling together. Now, I know they beat Klopp last week, and look, I think that was their first major result all year. I can't see them progressing. This is a great opportunity for Arteta to prove that no, I'm not a manager that's a Europa League. I'm going to be challenging for silverware after Christmas. Aldrich mentioned we're not too far away from the cups beginning, getting into the business end of the Europa League after Christmas. now is the chance to immediately say we're ready to put results behind us, upsets behind us, and build going forward. And I do feel that Jesus is going to come back and he's going to score a goal.
Yeah, I do.
That's right. That's right. They all gonna come back.
Yeah.
As soon as Martinelli also fires up and starts scoring all his chances, we're gonna have something amazing. It's just that. It's just that. If you see that attacking trio, I love them. Jesus, Martinelli, and Saka. I love that trio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll play a proper midfield. They'll play Xhaka in there. They'll play Partey, and we'll have our big defenders back. And we're going to have to get in Forest faces, because they would have looked at the Southampton match where, because of a lenient ref, they were shoving us and pushing us all over the place. So you're going to have to stand up. You've got to earn the right for your extra skills and talent to win through. So get out there and don't allow them to push you around. Let's hope we get a regular somebody repping it who isn't lenient. And we aren't a dirty team. We are not a dirty team, and I'm not keen that Arsenal turn into a dirty team. But it's a man's game, and stand up and be counted. And if you play those big defenders, you play Xhaka, and you play Partey, you've got some big guys there, big fellas who will not be pushed around. So let the other team know that if they're going to start pushing us around, we can push back. I'm not saying fouling or anything. And then once you've got that in the Forest defenders' minds that this team can't be pushed around, then you can let our magic happen. And what we need to get back to, and I'm sure they'll be working on it in the training pitches, is this crisp one-touch passing. The key to Arteta's game is the crisp passing, two-touch passing. It deserted us against PSV. That has to come back, and come back quickly.
Yeah, well said. Well, do you know what? We've actually run out of time on this one. I tell you what, an hour and 5 minutes has just flown by with the alphabet people. H1, H2, and the A man. And that's not me, that's Aldric. But you know what, guys? I've really, really enjoyed this one. Aldric, again, it's good to see you back on the channel. I hope your family are keeping well. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. We appreciate the invitation. It was a very good program. And for all the Gunners, keep supporting the team. Please don't lose your heads in case that there are more defeats, because we have more incoming defeats on the season. We are just starting. We started better than expected. We just have to keep pushing and provide the good vibes to the team. They all need it. And we have to surround all our Gunners brothers with the same energy. So don't lose your heads in case that we lose a couple of more games.
Thank you again, Tim, for coming back on Cannon 40 TV. Thank you.
Alex, thanks, Will. Thanks for the invite. Aldric, great meeting you. Alex, thanks again. Terry, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Lovely to see you all again.
Brilliant. So this has been Cannon Fodder. Look out for my brother's watch along. Watch along on Sunday. I can't believe it. It's like I don't know, like a blue moon. Blue moon, very rare. This has been Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over